Welcome to Coffee Time with Coach Torres and Friends.
Hi everyone, welcome to Coffee Time with Coach Torres and Friends. I'm your host, Coach Hector Torres. I'd like to welcome you to this next segment on getting to know the coach. In this segment, we're going to get to know Hector L. Torres, your USA Triathlon Level 3 coach. What got him started? What made him become who he is today? Some people have clashed with him. Some people love him. All right, so let's get started. Q&A, questions, people that are dying to know. I'm like, who is Hector Torres? First question, can you tell us a little about how you got into triathlon coaching and what inspired you to pursue this path? Well, I started coaching when I was 22, 23. Yeah, and what got me started was the lack of help that there was back then for triathlon coaches. This is back in 2003, 2004. The sport was relatively young. It just got inducted into the Olympic sports. So there was not that much traction. Like Claremont had their races. The education department for USA Triathlon wasn't up to great. It was minimal. If you wanted to learn how to swim, well, hire a swim coach. If you wanted to learn a bike, hire a cycling coach. If you wanted to learn how to run, join a run club. And so there wasn't nothing very structured at the time. And I was like, we have to do something for Central Florida because I knew what the sport did to me. And I wanted to help others cross that finish line to help them get started as well. Because there was nothing out there. So, okay, cool. So, Coach, you've been coaching for over 20 years now, which is incredible. Can you take us back to the early days? How did Central Florida Track Club and Tri-Peak Athlete come to life? What was the vision behind the initiatives? Well, how I started the Central Florida Track Club, it is fascinating. Well, I went to the YMCA and I said, hey guys, we should start a club. We should start something. And just to have a community of people working out together. Because I didn't want to work out by myself. Very selfish reasons. No, but I didn't want to work out by myself. I knew there were other people out there that wanted to get inside the sport. And I know how it changed my life. You know, I was a big kid and then I got into modeling a little bit. And literally, I lost 100 pounds, okay? I was a big guy. I lost 100 pounds. I was 263. I was a size 43 waist. I was not into sports. Then I started working out. Then I started looking good. My confidence started building up, and I started doing some modeling gigs. And then I was getting into bodybuilding. But then it was like when I got into triathlon, it just got me by the hook. And I'm one of those people that when you're into something, you want to do your best at it. Be the best you can be. And that's one thing I've learned from my mom. My mom taught me is look, if you can do something, do good at it. Don't do it half-assed. So I went to the YMCA. Look, I want to start this program. It's not for profit. I want to give back to the community and I want to grow the sport. And we had our first kickoff meeting back in 2005. Yeah. And they were hosting, actually it was 2004, and we started at Winter Park, at the Winter Park YMCA. And then we had two other coaches that were just trying to help out, but they were not taking it that serious. I was like, all right, no, we're here to work. And that was from the beginning. I was like the gun-ho. I was like, look, we're here to work. I was like, I'm here to kick your butt to get you to great shape. So when I saw that, Winter Park was not like, okay, they were hit and miss. They were going to be closing the Crosby pool for a little bit. I was like, you know what, let's go. The downtown YMCA approached me and says, look, can you come down here? Why didn't you host your program here? I'm like, great, let's do it. And I started off with 6 athletes. 6 amazing athletes. And it was great. It was great. I'm like, I remember, no, I had 12, wrong group, 12 athletes. 12 athletes that came to the meeting. They were asking questions. People were attending the Track Shack runners group, and they were asking me questions. Look, I don't know how to swim. I'm like, I'll teach you how to swim. I'll teach you how to bike, and I'll teach you how to run. And of course, we know the triathlon sport is a very type A personality. So you're dealing with doctors, dentists, people, because this is a very expensive sport. And, a lot of personality clashes in the beginning. I was like, look, you need to learn to do this on your own. No one's going to come here and change your tire. You need to learn to do it. And it was great. It was very, very good. First year we had 12. The following year we had 24. And it kept on growing and growing. And since then, many people, Central Florida's grew, and there was many people, wanted convenience, and they wanted to start their own groups in their area. And many groups, many coaches from Central Florida that has founded their club now, or the little groups came from the Central Florida Tri Club. And they've tried to mimic it, but it hasn't been the same, no. They've done great, within their area, and they've done their niches, and I'm happy for them. But it's, the Central Florida Club, we've been here for 20 years. So many people have come and go, but heck, we're still here. So it's great. So that the Tri Club started growing and growing and growing. Then I became an executive. I was working in radio, by the way. And then at the time, and I was going to pursue my master's degree. And they told me, Coach, what do you want to do? I'm like, all right. I'm like, I want to pursue my master's or go to law school, either or. Then I got a huge opportunity with USA Triathlon, and I was invited to become a level 2 coach back then, and that was 2006. And became a level 2 coach, and I knew for a fact that was my calling. So I didn't go to law school, and I was pursuing my master's degree in sports and fitness. And that changed my life. That changed my life completely. I got more involved within the federation, working within the regions. I became the chair of the regions for Florida for 10 years. And it went very well, very, very well. We touched the lives of many, many people, because we're all about giving back to the sport. And then I got tired of working with Y because I wanted to coach full time. And I was like, look, I want to step down as an executive and coach full time because it was my passion. And I did. I quit stability. I quit security and to take a chance to follow my dream. And I did. I started my own business, and my side business, I still had the club going, and that's when Tri-Peak Athlete came to be. I'll never forget, I was with Medi Goker. Medi, love you. We sat down, she's like, you need to come up with a name with your company. I was like, well, Hector Torres Coaching. They're like, no, something impactful. And we came up with Tri-Peak Athlete. And I was like, achieve your peak performance. And that's how it started. And it was great. And I was operating from a small studio, like 800 square feet. I'm like, that's how small it was. And I had a treadmill, I had some weights, and I was like, look, I'm going to help these people. I'm going to do it. And I got many people to, many Ironman races. They completed them. And I was like, it's happening. Then when I went to Germany to do a race for the Gay Games in Germany, I got into a bike accident. I was 5th out of the water. I was 3rd lead on the bike, and I was passing a guy from Belgium. And I said, I'm on your left. I says, yes, I'm on your left. And I passed a guy, and the guy hit me in my back wheel, and I flew off my bike. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. I lost my sense of smell. It was bad. It was really, really bad. But I made it through it. I overcame. And thank God for accidental insurance. And then I got a check. I got a nice check of $10,000. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for a bigger space. And that's when I went into Virginia. And it's been great. I was there for Virginia for 13 years. And then I went to Bumby. That was 2,200 square feet. And now I'm going remote. And it's been great. I'm still coaching athletes worldwide. helping them cross that finish line. So that's the story of how Tri-Peak and the Central Florida Tri Club started. Next question. Building a community like the Central Florida Tri Club takes dedication. What kept you motivated and passionate about coaching for more than 2 decades? What kept me going? My team. My team. I gotta tell you, throughout the years I've been coaching, I've had highs and lows with people. You know, I'm very strong-minded. I'm very direct. I don't sugarcoat it, you know. But at all times, it's been for my athletes. You know, that's what kept me going. Waking up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning because I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for them. Because I know how it was when it started that, you know what, no one was there when I had to wake up to go to the pool. No one was going to force me. No one was going to be there waiting for me. And that's one thing I try to teach my my athletes, that you might not show up, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to be waiting. And many coaches give up early in the days or when they get started into the sport or just coaching or training. And people are not going to show up. People are going to be irresponsible. People are not going to call you. And because they don't think that fitness is a priority. And that's, you know, and many people will give up training first before doing anything. Before evaluating, okay, let me just cut this out or cut this out of my life to focus on my training. Because at the end of the day, your training is going to help you live a better life. So, yeah, I've done it. It keeps me motivated is crossing that finish line with my athletes. And I've done 35 Ironmans around the world, and I love it. And I'll keep on doing it with my athletes. They're like, Hector, let's do this. I'm like, all right, I'll get you ready. Let's do it together. Next question. Over the years, you've worked with so many athletes from beginners to seasoned Ironman competitors. What have been the most rewarding part of coaching for you? Over the years, you've worked with so many athletes from beginners to seasoned Ironman competitors. What's been the most rewarding part of coaching for you? Oh, so many. Oh. So many. I don't know what to tell you. There's been so many. From my first physically challenged athlete, from Loyal Pazinski. I remember when I met him, he was swimming at the YMCA. And I wanted, they were just finalizing, introducing paratriathlon into Ironman races, and it was just wheelchair athletes. And I was like, look, I need to get an athlete to Hawaii. I need to, because it was my personal dream back then to get to Hawaii, and it was before then. And I saw Loyal Pazinski. He was swimming at the pool, and I stopped him. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? And he was missing a hand. And trust, if you get to know me, I have no shame. I was like, yo, have you ever thought of doing a triathlon? And he's like, no. I was like, well, you have a good swim stroke. You need to work a little bit on this, but think about it. And at the Tri Club, we were hosting bike sessions Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we were swimming Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5 a.m. And he popped up one day, and he saw us cycling, and he came up to me, and he said, you know, I might give that a try. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And in 2009, he completed his first Ironman. He did Ironman Florida. And it was nervous because he only had part of his hand, and I was excited for him. And then he got into, he got into the lottery for Ironman Hawaii, and I get that phone call. He's like, Hector, guess what? I'm like, what? I got in. I'm like, what? And we're crying over the phone, like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm so happy for you. And it was a dream come true for him. And I remember, back then the trackers weren't that great. The Ironman tracker is never that great, just so you know. But back then it was just like, oh my God, can't wait. So he did Ironman Hawaii back in 2010, I believe. Yeah. And then it was great. That was one of my first accomplishments. And then he went to compete at Worlds, many different IT World competitions in the para triathlon division. Then I had so many athletes that have overcome so much to cross that finish line. But there's one. Well, there's several. There's so many, 20 years. But I want to talk about Chris Nikic. So Chris Nikic, Special Olympics, had an event, and I had one of my athletes, Wynn McFarlane. She went to a dinner, and she brought it up. She's like, hey, Wynn's a lawyer, by the way. She's very powerful with words. And she says, I would like to, have you thought of doing triathlon? She's like, you know what, actually, can you help us up with that? She's like, I'll get back to you. And she calls me. It's just, Hector, what are your thoughts on coaching kids with special needs? And I'm like, what? Okay. I'm like, I'm processing. I'm like, it's going to be difficult, but why not? I'm like, let's do it. I'm like, you know what? Yes, let's do it. I'm up for a challenge. And I think for a coach, when you're just working with regular athletes, with people, able-bodied athletes, but when you're working with, I worked with physically challenged athletes because in 2012, I was the head coach for Team USA, and Mark Sartino was there. He was also one of the coaches. Connie Saul, Sergio Borges. These were the four main coaches back when we started para triathlon. And then I was like, all right, let's get the ball rolling. Let's try this out. And it was difficult. It was difficult because, as a coach, you're like, all right, give me 10 step ups. Do me the. I'm like, give me four. Give me 400 repeats. You write the workouts down, and they're like looking at me. They're like, huh, what? And I learned that you had to be patient. They process things differently, and I had to take a step back. And I'm like rough, and I'm like, no. You guys are part of Special Olympics. You're not special to me. I said that, okay? I said that. I'm like, you want inclusion? I'm going to treat you like everyone else. Oh, I look back and I was like, oh, what was I thinking? But I've learned. I did learn. It was quite a testament. It was quite helping them from the start. And Chris Nikic was part of the first group. And I says, look, I'll give up my time. I'm like, come by my studio and I'll help you twice a week. Let me start helping with you, because you guys just once every 2 weeks is not enough, because you're not going to do the homework. Let me work with you. And I did. And we started growing the committee. The next year we had more athletes join in. Then the following year we had more athletes join the Special Olympics team. And then when it was like the fourth year, it was 2020. And I'm giving my kickoff meeting at the downtown YMCA about the Central Florida Tri Club, the plan that we have for the year. And there comes Chris. He comes out to me. He's like, Coach, I'm going to do an Ironman. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. He's like, yes, I am. I was like, really? Let's talk to your father. And the father's like, hey, let's do an Ironman. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, all right. If you're going to do this, you have to do exactly what I tell you to do. And that's when the journey began. And it was an uphill battle because Chris was getting sick a lot. You know, when you have your immune system is compromised due to amount of stress, and there was many things happening. Then he fell off the bike, had a bike accident, and I was like, oh, great. So let me get him a little bit more comfortable on the bike because he only had one pace. And just getting back on the bike again after the accident, he was scared. And you know, Dan Grieve was one of the volunteers helping out, and I says, look, Dan, he's gonna do an Ironman. If you're not gonna be with him throughout the entire sessions, you're not gonna be his guide, because to be a guide with someone who is neurodiverse, you need to be with them all the time. You know, you need to know how they react. It cannot just be like a weekend thing. Let's do this together. No, it's different. You have to build a rapport, an understanding. There are verbal cues. You know, there's body language that you need to read from the athlete. You need to get to know the individual. And I told him that. I was like, look. And then he's like, all right, fine, I'll do it. I'm like, great. And they were going to do Gulf Coast in May. In 70.3 Ironman Panama City. And that was going to be in May. But due to COVID, everything closed down. And as everything closed down, you know, they canceled the race. So they were going to do the race out in Claremont. And I was like, if we're going to do this race, we need to go. I'm going to put you with the timelines. I'm going to treat you like equally. I was the bad guy. I was the bad guy. I'm like, I'm going to set up some cutoff times. He needs to be done with the swim at this time. He needs to be done with the bike by this time and the run by this time. And he's like, oh, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. I'm like, all right, fine. So they did the swim. It was perfect. But on the end of the bike, he had a flat tire, and they were short by 2 miles, just letting you know. And but the best part about everything was that the community came together. Everyone came together. Everyone came out to support the cause. Channel 13 came out. People were giving hope to see that anything is possible. And especially during the pandemic, that everything was closed down. Everyone was like indoors and not doing anything. But, you know, they did the distance. And it was a ripple effect from that day on. Then we were getting ready for Florida. And that was a big one. That's the big one because it's double the distance. And it's like we're running out of time. And we were meeting every single week, checking up time, seeing, you know, how his health was doing, how his diet was doing. And diet is key. And it was so tough. I'm like, what are you feeding him? I'll have all these arguments with Nick all the time, but it was just because we wanted to succeed, you know. At the end, it was the day of Ironman Florida. Was an amazing day. It was a lot of adrenaline rush. There was many volunteers that came together to make it happen. It took an army. It took the entire Central Florida Tri Club. It took the entire community to make it happen. So we were at, the gun goes off at Ironman Florida, and it was, I could still live it. The wind was hitting your face. We're standing at the shore. Chris was doing his dance before getting inside the water. And he says, yeah! You know, for those who know Chris, yeah. And he was screaming and he was jumping up and down. And it was Carlos and Jennifer were the other additional guides helping out that day. And they were helping out throughout the training, showing up. So it was 3 people. Dan was going to be the main guide, and then Carlos was going to be there for the swim and the run, and Jennifer was going to do the bike, and just help them out. But that day, everything hit us that day like it was never hit before. The kid cross, we did the first lap in the swim. I'm like, perfect. He's on time. He's on good time. It's perfect. Then when it came to the second time, he comes out of the water. He's doing great. He's on point. He comes out. He's on the bike. He gets on the bike. He takes off. Now, Chris, if you want to fuel If you wanted to eat, we need to stop the bike and drink fuel. So I was like, look, every 30 minutes you need to stop, or every 15, 20 minutes you have to assess the situation. So that day, it was Beth Atnip from Ironman. She was on the bike as well. She was on a electric bike. And Nick, his father, was on another bike with nutrition as backup because we're about to make history. And they're going up over an overpass. Dan screams at Chris, slow down. And what happens? Chris falls down. Da, 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 da. And then he's like, oh my God. So he pops up and he's like, I'm ready to go. Then comes, they're like, great. So they keep on cycling. On one of the stops, Chris steps off his bike and stands on an end pile. The end pile starts going up his legs and starts biting his legs all over. I'm like, oh my God, all over. And he's sort of like, they're trying to shower it down. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm on the phone. I was like, what's happening? And they're on the bike. They keep on going the bike. But if you were a regular other person, you would stopped because you have to see the welts he had on his legs. But no, they kept on going. Then in the middle of the bike, I'm in my car chasing them down through an entire bike course. You shouldn't do that, but I did. And I was like looking for them. I was like, look, what's happening? What's going on? And then Jennifer says, I have a flat. I'm like, oh my God, you have a flat? I'm like, we don't have time. So I say, Dan, Chris, keep on going. I'll take care of Jennifer. So we fix her tire and then she keeps on riding again. Then she gets another flat. I was like, oh my God. I was like, great. So by that time, we've lost too much time. I was like, look, we're going to put your car on my bike and we're going to catch up to them. So we caught up at least for 5 miles. She got DQ'd because her her radar was saying that she was going, 55 miles an hour for 5 miles. So yeah. But it was they did the bike. She caught up. They finished the bike under the allotted time for the bike. And then comes the run. So Jennifer, she's exhausted. She just did the bike. She's like, I'm going to go have a glass of wine, sit in the Normatec boots. And I see Chris, and Chris is falling apart on the bike, on the run. And I send a group text to everyone that was there. I'm like, Chris needs hugs. And it was to that point that Chris, he needed the support from everyone to cheer him on. And I went ahead and picked up Mindy, that was Dan's wife. And I picked her up. It says we had to chase them down. And we had to go run back and forth, look for them. The community came out, everyone came out. And it was towards the last leg, the last 3 miles, that was like, we need to push. And you know what? When you're at a cutoff time, everyone's angry. Dan was cursing at everyone. Carlos and Jennifer were just, talking along. They were exhausted. Beth Atnep, I gotta give it to Beth with Ironman. She was there every step of the way. No one gives her kudos, but kudos to Beth. She's done so much for inclusion. And Chris stopped for a second. I said, stop for a second, Chris. It was like 1 mile left. And I was like, I need you to run now. I'm like, you want to be done with this? I need you to run. Everyone's waiting for you. I'm like, at that finish line, I need you to run. They picked up the pace. And right before they started the finish line, coming to the chute, Dan stopped. And Chris stopped. And he gave me a hug. And he says, now go. You're going to be an Ironman. I heard that day we had more viewers than the Super Bowl itself on the live stream of Ironman. We made an impact to the world to see that anything, literally anything, is possible if you set your heart and your mind to do it. And he did. It took an army, but it happened. It did happen. So that was one of the greatest highlights that I've had as a coach, as an athlete, as a mentor. So it's been It's been amazing. Next question. Your certifications and background are impressive. USA Triathlon Level 3 coach, USA Cycling, USA Swimming, track and field, weightlifting, and more. Plus, you hold 2 master's degrees. How has your education and training shaped your coaching philosophy? Interesting. My coaching philosophy has always been listen to your body, trust your coach, and listen to your coach. Sometimes when a coach is there, there's always going to be a love and hate relationship. You're going to have points of views. The coach will listen. And one thing I've learned, I'll listen to my athlete. I'm like, okay, I'm listening to you. You might not like what I have to say to you, and that's okay. But you have to trust me. And it's a give and take. The coach will listen, the coach will see you, will look what's your best interest for you. The coach is not there to sabotage you in any moment. And what I've learned with all my certifications, my degrees, that trust is so important. And loyalty. Because if you do so, if you hold that, the coach will go to the end of the world for you. And one thing I've learned that as a coach, I will be at the finish line for every single athlete when I'm capable of. When I'm done with my race, I'll go out there and I will look for you. Because I know how it is. I know the battles that we go through when we're out there. Trust me, I know. The moments you want to give up, I get it. And it's a love and hate relationship. But you just have to trust your coach. And the coach will look for you. The coach will do its best, but it comes to you as well. You need to keep yourself motivated. Your coach will help you to stay focused. Motivation will come and go. Motivation will come and go. But your dedication, your consistency will drive you towards any finish line that you set yourself to achieve. So that's what molded my coaching philosophy in the past 20 years. And it has changed. It has changed throughout. But I think those are the core values I've had, as a Christian. Love others like you love yourself, and love your neighbor. You know what I mean. But, I love all my athletes. I will go to the end of the world for them because I believe in them. They come to me with a dream, and it is my job. It's my job to help them achieve it. So yeah. Next question. Here we go. Triathlon coaching isn't just about the physical aspect. It's about your mental preparation too. What is your approach to helping athletes prepare mentally for races and challenges? Well, I use a lot of mental training with my athletes, and they're like, "Oh, Hector, that is a bit." I have some people that they think it's too mushy, and I'm like, "No, it's not mushy. I'm like, at the end of the day, you're out there. It's race day. It's 90% mental, 10% physical because you've done the work. If you're sabotaging yourself mentally, I'm like, goodbye, see you. If you feel like you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail. But if you have the goal, if you set your mindset, I'm like, for example, I've implemented many visualization tools, self-talk tools for my athletes, and I've gone over them with them. I was like, look, remember your why you're doing this. And when many people start racing and they start getting good, and they're like, wow, they forget their why they started. And and that's when I tell all my athletes, remember your why. There are moments you want to give up and you can't. You have to remember your why you're doing it. And that will keep you going. So when it comes to visualization, self-talk, mental training, I tell my athletes to take 20, 30 minutes, sit down in a quiet space that you will normally not sit down, and go over the race in your head, step by step. And what you can do in the swim, what will happen if something happened in the swim, how will you react to it? And I tell people, expect the unexpected to occur. So when the unexpected happen, you know exactly what to do. And that is literally a component that will help you and the athlete is using these attributes: mental training, visualization, and self-talk. Looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of the Central Florida Tri Club and Tri-Peak Athlete? Any exciting plans or projects on the horizon? Well, yes. A lot of things have changed since 2024, 2025. We're back at the YMCA because since COVID, they've stopped many of the programs, but now we're back at the YMCA. So we have access to a pool full time, because before we was going to other facilities and get our memberships there and just swim. But now I will be on deck coaching my team without any issues. That's great. We have our cycling sessions. They're going to be indoors. Mostly they are. Sometimes we've been doing it via Zoom when I had my old studio. In person and in Zoom. But now I want to start focusing on after school programs, working with kids, getting kids involved within the sport, growing more the neurodiverse program. So right now, every Wednesday nights at 6:30 p.m., we have track sessions at Howard Middle School. So that's, I want to go and get into the schools now and get kids involved within movement, just training, and get them involved within the sport. So those are my plans in the future, and I'm excited. Doing a lot of races this year, and Special Olympics is also growing as well. I have my own special team of neurodiverse athletes that we've been going to USA Triathlon's national championships, in which I'm very excited. Two of my athletes hold their national titles there, so it's pretty awesome. That's Victoria Decker and James Luster. They've been doing great. But I have an amazing team of athletes, and I can't wait to welcome any new person that's out there that wants to get involved within the sport. And it does not have to be triathlon. It could be swimming, it could be cycling, it could be running, it could be either any of these three, or just strength training. I want to build a community within Central Florida that people could come together and train. And they are like-minded individuals that will support one another and create loyalty within the team. That when it comes to the finish line, you're not going to go home. I don't care how tired you are. Really, I don't care how tired you are. But if we're a team, I'm going to wait for you. And that's what I would like for all my teammates to do as well. And says, look, if you have to leave because of an emergency, I get it. But check on your team. They're like, look, I'm leaving, but I'm cheering you on. Goodbye. Just look for them. Because it's a community. No one's left behind. It's like Ohana. Ohana means family. No one is left behind. All right, and last question. Before we wrap it up, one last question, Hector. What advice will you give someone who's just starting their triathlon journey and considering joining Central Florida Tri Club or working with Tri-Peak Athlete? Don't be scared. Don't be scared. You have a dream. And if you live your life with fear, you're living half-lived. There's an expression that says in Spanish, vivir con miedo es como vivir a medias. And it's like living with fear is living half-lived. If you have a goal, and if you have a dream, and I remember when I crossed the finish line in my first Ironman, and it was Lanzarote, 2006, Spain. When I got there, I was not prepared. I was scared. I was crying. I'm like, before getting the water, my eyes were watering. I was like, shit, what am I doing? And I'm seeing all these people. And plus, remember, I was a fat kid. I was nervous. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay, just swim, Hector, just swim. And we all go through that anxiety before getting in the water. It's like, oh my God, did I do enough? That's when you know you're ready. So don't be scared, because I gotta tell you, once that gun goes off, you're going to keep on going and you're gonna keep on running. And I gotta tell you, everything is gonna get in the way, but if you push through training and if you sacrifice so much when it comes to race day, it's going to be icing on the cake. So promise me, listeners and viewers, if you want to start this journey, just start by walking. Get in the water, feel it out. And then when you're ready, pick up the phone. I'll be waiting for your call. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today with Coffee Time with Coach Torres and Friends. I was your host, Hector Torres, and I hope you got to know a little bit about me and a little bit about the story about the Tri Club and what made me get here today. Thank you so much and for joining us, and I'll see you next time with Coffee Time with Coach Torres and Friends. See you later. Bye.